Hello, it's Annette here, and I'm here with Renee Rivera. Hello, Renee.
Hey everybody, hi Annette.
We are here today to do another book review. Renee is going to do the interview questions, and I just finished reading this book, and so we're going to do a review on it. Go ahead, Renee, it's all yours.
Great. So what is this book you have and how did you get your hands on it?
Well, the book I have is called She Found His Grace by Serena Dyksen with Julie Klose. I think that's how you pronounce the last name.
Okay.
I will go ahead below and stick the link where you could order the book on Amazon or go to her website at serenadyksen.com. I
Great.
got the book from a friend who was with my husband who said, hey, I think Annette might like this book. I just finished hearing this speaker. It was a fabulous story, and it's a quick read. So she gave the book to John, who gave the book to me, and I did read it, and it was a fabulous story. And it's from somebody actually who's out here local in Indiana. I'm originally from California, and I've been out here for 5 years. And so it was exciting as I read the book to hear the different towns that I'm learning as we progress to live out here
Oh,
in Indiana. So that was fun.
cool. So what you said grace is in the title.
Mm-hmm. She
I'm
found his
assuming
grace.
that's one of the themes. So what are some of the themes that you picked up as you were reading?
Well, it does say it's a story of hope, love, and forgiveness after abortion. And so it has all
Wow.
those elements in it. The story starts from when she was very young to as an adult she is today.
Wow. Okay. And so is this an abortion story? Is this would include that, but so what is this story without giving it away like a movie? What is this story about? What are the themes or
Well, she comes from a dysfunctional family originally. And in that dysfunction, she starts to be, at a very young age, sexually abused. And as she gets
wow.
older, by the time she's 13, the sexual abuse goes further to being raped. And then she becomes
Wow.
pregnant. Um, it was like one day she went to the doctor, she was pregnant. The next day, they went in right away to take her to get an abortion. Her parents actually thought they were doing her good to fix this trauma that had happened in her life, but instead it tore the family apart and nearly destroyed
Wow.
her life, which the book talks
Wow.
about.
Wow.
Very
So is
traumatic.
this it sounds extremely traumatic.
Yes.
So with that in mind, what would be the scale of bringing trauma to others who would read it, and who would be the best person to pick up this book and read it without, it shaking them like, like a rated R movie or something?
Well, I would say the PTSD level is about a 2 or a 3, 10 being the highest. She's very
Okay.
tasteful on how she talks about how the abuse happened, so she doesn't go too deep into it, which is real
Okay.
nice for beginner readers. I would say this book is great for leaders that are working with those who are abused or who have had an abortion. I think it would be great if it got
Okay.
into the hands of women who have had abortions and are still struggling
Mm.
with the subject, and or to read it to possibly get more insight of how God loves them
Mm.
so much and just add to
Wow.
their foundation, as well as just the church in general. There are so many people who have had abortions over the year, whether it's been from sexual abuse or becoming pregnant, and they were not going to keep the child. And the trauma that it takes a person through um,
Mm.
doesn't just last to that moment, and it goes through the years that she walks through the healing from the sexual abuse all the
Mm.
way to the abortion.
So for our viewers, when you say trauma, what are you pertaining to?
Violent acts that happen against a person. The abortion was another traumatic experience for her. In fact, she says it was more traumatic than being raped for her. Everybody, it's
Okay.
different, but for her, it was
Yeah.
more than that for her. Yes.
Well, I thought it would be important to ask you that because there may be somebody watching this today that might be considering, or in the future, it might come across their thoughts of maybe I could do an abortion to make life easier, you know, because a pregnancy came that they weren't expecting. And
Yes.
so I just wondered where the trauma you're referring to
Yeah.
is from, besides the abuse, clarifying that.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yes.
So does the whole story talk about the abuse and the abortion, or does it cover more of that? Is it just about her childhood, or is it, what does it cover?
Well, it covers from the abuse. It quickly goes into the abortion, and then how her life kind of spun out of control after that,
Mm,
because she
wow.
had this abortion. She was very naive in the whole situation as it happened. She didn't even have full realization of what that all entailed, even getting pregnant, which we relate well to, as we have worked with many women who were just very naive, especially when the sexual abuse starts so early in life.
Yeah.
But it also goes into her relationship of where she marries her husband, all the way to where she starts having other children, and how God walks her through the healing still continually
Mm,
of the event. It just wasn't something that happened when she was 13 and it stayed there. This continued on because there hadn't been healing to that wound. It had only been packed down, pushed down, her emotions pushed down, not facing it. And so it was a story that proceeded all the way along. My favorite part was they took the time to really talk about the relationship between the husband and wife, and how tough it was for the husband, and how patient he
wow.
had to be as she went through the steps of allowing God's grace to come into her life, his love to come into
Mm,
her heart, as she got to understand more and more about how she
mm,
was created to be this woman that God loves so much, even though trust had been broken by so many people in her life, and how the church really came around her and her husband and supported them through this time.
So how did she get help? So it sounds like right now you just said the church came around them. What did that look like? And how did she get help for that healing that didn't happen at 13, but it happened, it sounds like, as an older woman
It happened in chunks, like
later?
it happens for a lot of people, where they'll go through a season of healing, whether they go to a retreat. She had a retreat she went to, and that brought a lot of healing for the abortion piece. Um, but different times in her life, she belonged to women's group, and in the women's group, they supported each other well, and she was able to talk with them honestly and openly and be supported that way wise. She had a time that she just was spinning a little out of control, and she had to separate from her husband and the children. And that was a really tough time. Yet the church just kept on loving unconditionally. Her husband, though it was tough, still loved unconditionally. And so she had that support there.
Mm,
It's hard. I can imagine for the church to look at it going, we were just loving on her and stuff. And it seemed like she didn't want it. She wanted to push it back. But for those who have lost trust, who have been abused so much, they're like that dog that is hurt. And so instead of turning around going, oh yes, heal my wounds, they're more biting the person who wants to try to help them. So that's
yeah,
what it seems
nipping
like,
back.
quite a bit.
Mm,
Yes.
wow, wow. So it covers that full.
The full
You
spectrum
just
of
touched.
it. Absolutely. To the
Wow.
point where God takes her through this healing, and it's his timing is just so amazing that then she becomes a speaker and an advocate for those who have had abortions, for babies that are unborn. She just really has a desire to share her testimony and to bring hope to those who've been wounded so much.
Has she shared any of the experiences of telling her story? So it sounds like the book is telling her story, but then you just mentioned she becomes a speaker and an advocate for it. Does it tell any stories of maybe who else she's been able to reach since then, since she's become a voice now of healing?
Well, there was a time she started telling her story with Teen Challenge, which now she, even though she was just sharing her story then, years later, now she's on the board for Adult Teen Challenge, which I didn't know there was such a thing as Adult Teen Challenge. Thought there was only Teen Challenge. So that was interesting, as well as she was going to share her testimony more publicly. And it turned out she was going to do funeral service, which in turn turned out to be for the babies that I'm reading through the book here, that Dr. Koffler, the story that became public a couple of years ago, where they found all the baby bodies in his home, in his car. And it was actually 2,246 unnamed babies. And she recognized the name. She recognized the name when she heard it. That was the person who did her abortion when she was 13 years old. And she still pressed forward at such a time as this, is kind of what rings in your ear as you're seeing that she's got a baby out there, and she named her children. And it was just amazing to see how she's been able to step forward and do that.
That is crazy. The thought that's coming to mind is, I know you had talked about this being for leaders and this being for those that have either been abused or have had the abortion, but it also sounds like this would be for men.
Yes.
A spouse of someone that's just hard to love. Tell me more of that, because you mentioned marriage and you mentioned them separating and those kind of things. You don't hear that a lot in books. I mean, would you agree?
I would agree. And she does have sections in there where you're reading it, and she's talking about how men whose wives, or whether they were married with the woman or not, had an abortion, how they need healing, how it's affected them.
Yes.
And how they are grieving the loss and such. And so she goes in all of that. I don't want to wreck that for you, but it's pretty amazing that she goes into that part, which you really don't usually see in a book like this. Usually it's all about them. But she shares the story, how it affects her children, her husband, and other men who have been, gone through the horrible devastation of being part of the abortion.
Do you have any, in our last couple minutes, do you have any quotes, anything that you would like to read from the book, or
from the book?
Anything that just,
let's see.
Anything that
I think
stuck
I
out?
did here in the back. Let me check real quick. And it was, she said, only God could take the life of an abused 13-year-old girl who experienced the tragedy of rape and abortion and make her life a testimony of his grace at the very location of that event in her life. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. That photo spoke volumes, with God's receiving all the glory. Her picture was taken, and of course she spoke at that Right to Life funeral that they had for those babies there that day. It was a full circle, and it was quite amazing. Let me share real quick. Oh, God. Let me share real quick my screen. Can you see it? This is her website, Serena Dyksen.
Yes.
Okay, and it's just real simple, serenadyksen.com. And on it talks about
Dyksen.
Yeah, Dyksen. And it shows on there how you can get the book. You can just order it straight through there, or you can get it through Amazon. It works that way as well. It's about $15.99, something like that. And she has started this ministry.
Nice.
And I think she brings to the church a way of them understanding the hurt and the pain that people have that have gone through this, men and women. The sexual abuse, the abortion piece, the other, yes.
Nice. And brings ideas on how to get help then.
Yes.
Not just a lesson God can teach you, but ways to seek out help. It sounds like what she found that was helpful.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you show us how thick the book is? I'm always curious.
It's 145 pages. It's not that thick. I know the cover's backwards
yeah.
here, but I'll put a link down below after the video. Easy read.
Okay.
And like I said, it's only a 2 or 3 on the PTSD. So that's really good for somebody who doesn't want to be triggered type thing. So I would highly recommend the book.
Amen. It sounds like something like for you and I, who are helping those who are also sexually abused, get it in our tool belt, as well as those
Yes.
who are working with folks who've had post-abortion. Any other final thoughts before we say goodbye?
No, that's it. Just we'll be ready with another book review next week on a really good one. This one's, people talk about it as the hurt pocket. It's when life hurts. And this is from Jimmy Evans. It's a older book, but oh my goodness. It's full of some great ideas and support for those out there who've been sexually abused and traumatized.
Well, let's say thank you to Serena, first of all, for sharing her story and her life with us. So thank you.
Absolutely. And putting in the work. Because you and I both know it takes stepping out there.
Yes, to get it out there. So thank you everyone for listening, and thank you, Annette, for letting me drill you and learning about another book I'm going to have to read now. And until next time, we'll see y'all. All right. Thank you for joining us.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Take care.